Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 Looney Tunes shorts, and give this video a like if you do like it. So this is a review for Jungle Jitters, released in 1938. It's the 191st in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freleng. It is the 5th in the infamous Censored 11 series of cartoons. As such, there is no official release. This one in particular is in the public domain, but I won't be showing the full cartoon in this video. So in case you haven't seen this one, and some of you may not even want to watch this one for good reason, as you can see right here, but we start off with the natives just doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, that's pretty hard to watch. We then see a salesman, and I'll go into the reference of that salesman very soon, trying to sell stuff. He gets captured. The natives seem to be fascinated by the goods he's trying to sell. He then ends up being in front of this queen who is white. Again, I'm going to go into that, and that's pretty much it. So what you're going to see is a re-edit of the original audio commentary, although this one's in the public domain, so the original track is still up on the channel, but for completeness sake, I thought I'd do it here as well. Thanks to my good friend Blue Genocide for re-editing that for me. And then you'll hear some new thoughts from me. So yeah, sit back, relax, and at least hopefully you'll enjoy the review. So. Yeah, so strap in and yeah, let's go through this hellish experience together. So here's a bit of repeated animation for you. So we've got negative depiction of Indians being reused in animation featuring negative depictions of Africans. Well, there you go. So this sequence, the beginning part was animated by Cal Dalton, and Ken Harris does the rest. The part where the salesman puts his foot in the door is animated by Paul Smith, as I've been told upon my research. Now, this particular salesman character is based off a radio show character, Elmer Blurt, played by comedian Al Pierce. And what's really interesting is that the Cannibal Queen that we'll see shortly is also based off another character in that same radio show. And I've just also noticed that there was one part in Little Red Walking Hood where you had the wolf doing a little bit of an impression of this same character, so I believe, yeah, it was from that radio show, which must have been pretty popular given how many references we've had to it so far. The Cannibal Queen is based off the Tizzy Lish character from the same radio show. The character model seems to be reused from I Only Have Eyes for You, that older lady that was in the beginning of that and the end of that Tex Avery short. And of course we've got a... that's bad. An African doing a stereotype African, cannibal doing a stereotype Chinese, a poor depiction of a Chinese character. I don't know. I'm just dumbfounded. When I saw that, I thought, wow, okay, all right. And the ending's pretty interesting. Like that she's so horrific that he would prefer to be cooked up in a pot and hopes he gives him indigestion. So. Yeah, I don't recall this one played in Australia at least, but who knows, maybe it was, but I don't know. So that's another one off the list, and I don't think I ever want to see this one again. So on top of the two radio references I already mentioned, which of course is Elmer Blurt, who's a character done on the radio by Al Pierce.
I have here a fine assortment of assorted useful, useless utensils.
And we have Tizzy Lish, who was a radio character done by Bill Comstock. We have three other references. We've got the one which you pretty much expected on all the Censored 11 by this point, which is a Stephen Fetchit caricature. Yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. Then you have the two celebrities when the Queen has her vision. The first one is Clark Gable, and the second one is Robert Taylor.
You'll find that our payment plan will please you. Hope.
That, I hope, it would be a catchphrase for that Elmer Blurt radio salesman character. And the Lizzie Tish character would always open on the radio with this catchphrase.
Hello, folksies?
I mentioned before there was some repeated animation, and that animation comes from Sweet Sue, which was also directed by Friz Freleng in 1937. Now, to put this cartoon into context, I mean, I'm not trying to defend it, of course, but there is a reason why the natives are depicted this way, and it comes from an article by Christopher P. Lehman over at Cartoon Research, who wrote the wonderful book, The Coloured Cartoon. But what he says about it, and I quote, "If you were to look at a map of Africa from February 1938, you would find a continent full of European colonies. Many of the countries identify themselves in the names of the colonies such as Belgian Congo, French West Africa, Portuguese Guinea, and Spanish Sahara. Elsewhere in Africa, Libya was an Italian colony, Nigeria and Rhodesia were British, and Angola and Mozambique were Portuguese. Meanwhile, European and American popular culture typically depicted the continent as full of dark-skinned, cannibalistic, and nearly naked natives, or powerful Europeans ruling the Africa, like the fictional character Tarzan. The political philosophy that Africa was the white man's burden to civilize still held sway among Westerners." End quote. So I'll have a link below to the full article. And to put things into even more context, the Queen here is white, and given that this was released in 1938, you still had segregation in the South of America. So I would imagine this was done to not upset the South, where you can only imagine if this was an African queen and you had a white salesman, well, you can only imagine the sort of uproar there would have been had that been done. So when this short was put on a Censored 11 list in 1968, Africa was changing or had changed in a lot of ways. Countries were starting to or had started to gain their independence, so the whole landscape had changed. So in this short, the idea of a white leader of an African tribe makes even less sense. I mean, there was one exception being South Africa, but I'm not going to get into that here. And speaking of which, what is that design anyway for that Tizzly-ish character? Why is she a chicken? I don't know. Is there a deep reference to that? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you actually know. So this short, along with the Isle of Pingo Pongo, are the only two on the Censored 11 list that contain stereotypes of natives, as opposed to African Americans. And yeah, it's very hard to watch with some painfully unfunny gags. But is the short any good, despite the imagery? No. Definitely not. I will say some positives though. The music at the start, and the score in general, is pretty solid. Yeah, a lot of it's just stereotypical quote-unquote native music, but hey, if you put that aside, it's still a good listen. And I do like the salesman character voiced by Ted Pierce. I thought it was quite fun, and it's a shame his character's wasted here. It would have been interesting to see his character in other shorts, you know, maybe knocking on doors to sell things, but then getting into all sorts of weird trouble, like, I don't know, he might have interrupted a robbery, or, you know, maybe he's trying to sell something to a hermit in a cave, or I don't know. I'm not a cartoon writer, but I'm sure you can see that there are possibilities there. But then again, he may end up being just a one-note character, and from what I was reading about the radio character that this version was inspired by, he quickly became a one-note character surrounded by catchphrases, which of course never happens today in any pop culture media. And I guess the backgrounds are nice, so, you know, there is that. And I do like the hold the onions joke, you know, which is typical for a Frizz cartoon. The problem here is that even if you had a completely different setting, this short's still a dud. It's just a bunch of throwaway gags in the beginning, and then a very thin story of a salesman trying to sell his wares, and the Queen becomes infatuated with him. And even when the story's there, some of the gags just take way too long, with the biggest offender being the salesman talking to the Queen while she fantasizes about him. I know some people find it funny, I don't, so there is that. All in all, this short just isn't funny, and it really does feel like Frizz was just going through the motions at this point. This was his second last short release before he went to MGM for a few years, so, you know, it's possible he just wanted to get it out the door. Who knows? I wasn't there, and there's no real documentation on that, so I don't know. So this one just gets a 2 out of 10 for me. It's unfunny, there is very little story to care about, with the only highlight being the music and the salesman character. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.
Yeah.
I now sentence you to be man and wife, kiss the bride. That'll be $2 please.
I hope they all get indigestion. I hope.